everybody, this is Kimberly with Starfish Design Embroidery Group. Been on the list to do this video for a little bit. I had somebody message me on Etsy with I'll try and put the picture up below, a picture of a bag that looks very similar to this. I think it was a commercially available bag, and asked if I had anything like this. And I said, well, no, I have the double zipper pouch, but it's square on the bottom, and it's one of my older patterns, and if I had to do it again, I would do it a little different. You have to turn the bag through the zipper pouch, the pocket. So, but no, I don't have anything like this. So I kept looking at the picture, and like an hour later, I'm like, I have the zipper pocket add-on. You could just use the zipper pocket add-on to make the front panel, and the Bernie is that same shape. So my Bernie applique bag has the same shape, and actually so does Groovy. So either one you do, if you have Groovy or Bernie, it's the same shape. So all you have to do is skip the applique steps. So that's what this is. So you can buy, and a lot of you already have the add-on zipper for doing linings, and I was giving it away when I first released it. For a month I gave it away for free. So I wouldn't recommend doing the credit card one, although you totally could. You actually could do the credit card as well for a couple of cards and just add a little strap to hold the cards in. But that's what this is. So most of the time when people think of the add-on, it's a lining bag pattern. It's meant to be used in the lining. But there's absolutely no reason why you can't use it for the exterior. This is the new Witch fabric from My Point Embroidery, and this is Purple Stardust. So you can see how well it worked out. A little caveats that I'll talk about in the video. This is meant for cotton, so the initial tack down seam is not a bean stitch. So if you're using a very unwieldy vinyl, you might want to repeat that step twice. But the bean stitch, top stitch does catch it. I chose not to top stitch this, I'll talk about it in the video, because these seams, even though I tried to trim them down, are very thick and bulky and bumpy, and I was afraid that either my needle might break, even if I went to a larger needle, or I would get a skipped stitch. More likely I'd get a skipped stitch. So what I did instead is I just put some permanent double tape to help hold this down, and we used the roller on it really well, and I don't even think you can tell any difference. So that's what I'm going to show you today. This is going to be very fast. Haha, you know it's me. I'm not fast about anything. But it's not going to be an in-depth tutorial for either pattern because those tutorials are already on my site and you can already go view those. So I'm just going to try and show you. And I apologize in advance. I lied to you, and I will be lying to you in this video. And I told you that I would show you when we get to the hooping how to measure this, and I didn't. So basically what you want to do is you want to find one of the files for the add a pocket that is the right height for the bag that you want to make, because this top stitching is finite, right? You can't make it longer. So what I did is I took the 8x8 zipper pocket and I made the 8.5 by 6 because this is max 6 inches. So I knew that the height of this would be enough, but this is 8.5 inches wide. So the width wasn't enough, but that's okay because you just make your wings wider then, because you don't need to worry about stitches down here. You only need to worry about this stitch. So when you want to try and figure out what size add a zipper pocket to do for your front panel, you just want to match the height for it. And you need it to be a little bit of a cushion, because this, you got to allow for a 1/2 inch of this to be folded over and into the seam, and then you need at least 1/2 inch for the bottom. So since this was 6 inches, I did the 8 inch, and I knew I would have enough room. So that's what I would recommend. You'll end up having a little bit of waste, but that way you don't come up short. But yeah, that's what this is. So this is Bernie meets the add-on zipper pocket, and an adorable little wristlet to grab your stuff and for the holiday season. Well, for any season, but you'll see me kind of pause because I realized this would actually look really cute if I would have put the Bernie applique here in orange. But no, that would have been really thick, and I stopped myself, guys. I stopped myself. So I hope you all liked this video. Again, you'll have to refer to the PDFs for cutting instructions for the vast majority of it. One more thing to mention. Instead of using the cutting directions for the pocket, I actually made mine a little shorter, and I measured in my software, but you can, if you don't have software, just stitch it out ahead of time or guesstimate. I measured how big I want this pocket, the depth of the pocket. And it's actually fine if it goes longer. It'll just get caught in the seam allowance, and that's fine. But mine doesn't go all the way to the seam allowance. So I measured how deep I wanted it, and I just used one panel that was 6 inches by 8 inches and folded it up. So you can consider that as well, instead of using the cutting instructions for the add-on. But again, it's not the end of the world if you don't. It'll just get caught, and the pocket will get cut off in the bottom lining or the bottom seam anyway. Okay, guys, enjoy this one. Okay, let's get started. Now, this is not meant to be a full tutorial for these patterns. There's videos already for them. I'm just showing you how to get it all together. So, as I mentioned before, for the zipper pocket, we might need it to be a little bit wider because I'm doing an 8.5 by 6 bag, and this is only 8 inches wide. So what I did is I cut the wings a little bit wider because the final stitch is going to be here. So we need to make the wings wider to fit in the larger bag. So I've already stitched out the placement line, the zipper placement, and I apologize. My seam here, or my stitch line didn't stitch very well, but it's okay. Again, there's a whole nother video for this. And I did neglect to do a zipper. I will be right back. Okay, zipper has been secured. Sorry about that. I tried to have everything ready, but I forgot the zipper. So I'm using a number 3 zipper here. I'm going to use that on both of them just because that's I wanted purple to go with my vinyl, so that's what I have. So I'm not going into a full-blown tutorial on this. There's plenty of other videos already for how to do my zippers, but for a number 3 zipper, you just want to place it and center it between these 2 outer lines. A number 5 zipper, you're going to center over the center line. So I just like to, this is going to be your seam allowance, but I like to take the zipper about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch beyond this here. And hopefully I can try and stay in camera the whole time. I'm having issues with this tripod. So I'm going to center the zipper between these 2 lines, overlapped on the what would be the right hand side if you're looking at it, by about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to tape it in a couple of places just to make sure that it doesn't come undone while we're stitching the tack down. So see, just center it there and tape in a few places. Now you can go wild and try and do it without tape, or you can use something else to hold the zipper down. I don't take chances. As I like to say on these videos, I live in the United States of America, and I really don't want a $3,000+ bill because I put a needle through my finger. I'd rather spend the money on the tape and save that money for vinyl. Okay, and then sometimes you might need to tape down the actual pole so it doesn't come loose, but we have enough extra here that I don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and run step 2 on this file, and it's very fast, so I'm just going to leave the camera rolling for that. And all this is doing is just tacking that zipper to my stabilizer. And I am using tearaway because I'm going to be able to tear this all apart before we add it to the main bag. Whereas if I used my normal poly mesh that I like to use, it would end up staying inside here in the bag, and that would add a lot of bulk to the bag that I don't want. Okay, so, oh, that just came undone. Let's see if I got enough to salvage it though. I'm going to rerun that step because I want to cut the stabilizer behind here, and I want to make sure that that doesn't do. What I didn't do is it helps my machine, for some reason, the tension is really not great on it. And I haven't figured it out after all the years I've had this. So sometimes what's helpful is to pull the thread, the bobbin thread up and hold both of them. I think this is primarily an issue for me, and I even tried to do a back stitch and it doesn't seem to make any difference. So I'm just going to pull the bobbin thread up by turning my hand wheel, or you could just press start and stop it after one stitch. Then I hold the thread on the top and pull up and pull that bobbin out, and now I'm going to hold both of them together and run that bottom stitch, and that will help it not come undone. And I'm just going to stop it because, well, I'll let it go ahead and run both of them. Okay, so that's all done. Let me trim these miscellaneous threads that I got all over the place. Oh, here. Whoever recommended these scissors in my Facebook group, I love them. They have this tiny little hook on the end, so they make getting the tails and the runs really easy. And they're very sharp. I wouldn't recommend using them for vinyl, though, because they definitely don't like to cut all the way around on the vinyl, and you'll dull them fast, but for this purpose, they're perfect. Okay, so my zipper's off a little bit, but that's okay. So before we continue, I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to use my favorite seam ripper, the Alex Sanderson 4-in-1, and I'm just going to gently remove the stabilizer from between those tack down lines. You can do this at the end, or you can do it now. I've started doing it more now. One of my testers turned me on to this trick. But you do have to be careful, because I've had a few issues where if I'm using really heavy supplies, it does pull, and then the final zipper, the final tack down doesn't match. Or I'm sorry, the final top stitch doesn't match. Okay, so I want to make sure that I can see my blade under the stabilizer. It's kind of hard to show that on camera, but if I can see the blade, then I know I'm not cutting into my zipper. And I'm going to go ahead and use these scissors because I don't know if my seam ripper needs sharpened or what, but it didn't seem to want to be cutting. I'm not used to cutting tearaway. I'm used to using poly mesh, so maybe this is just the normal behavior you have when you're trying to cut tearaway. Okay. So now that's going to be out of our way, and we don't have to worry about it. Let me put my cap back on my tool here. I'm always forgetting that. I love this so much, I bought another one to put by my sewing machine. One of my friends sent this to me as a gift. So I'm going to take my panel that I already calculated to be 6 inches wide by 8 inches. So you're going to do that. You can do this now if you haven't already looked at the pattern and tried to figure it out yourself. Now's the time you can. So you just get your ruler out. Of course, I don't have one in here. I have 1,000 rulers. And oh, here's one. So you just get your ruler out and measure how wide that is and add about a 1/2 inch on either side. Oh, did I do this wide enough? I did. So that, why did that look like it was 6 inches? Oh, let me take the paper off. I love my Mormino rainbow rulers, and I haven't even taken that paper. Oh, that's right. So it's 6 inches. Okay. For some reason I had it wrong. So I think this piece here, I want the purple to be what I'm going to see when I open it on the back. So that means that piece is going to have to go there. So I'm going to put this piece right side down on the back. Go to the back of your hoop. We're not doing a lining here. We're going to use vinyl on the front. So I'm going to tape this, and you can fold it in half and mark where that little center tick mark is, right here and here, just to make sure you have it even. And I'm going to line it up so it's at the bottom of that zipper. And I'm going to tape it in place, and I should have pressed this first. Sorry about that, guys. And I can reuse some of that tape that I just had for the zipper too. And you'll see I have some rough edges across my fabric because I bought way too much of this. I thought it was a smaller scale and I wanted to use it for my lining. And so it's so hard to deal with that I just tore the piece instead. Okay, and you can actually kind of see that through here. That's fine. So hold this out of the way. Now, normally you'd be doing more cotton here because you're going to do this as a lining, right? We're not. We're going to use this as our exterior panel. So now we want to get our exterior pieces. This guy. These guys, are they right? Yes, this is the top. So it's going to go like this on the front. And we're only going to have our little zipper pocket lining. Oh, it's going to be so cute. Okay, so these are our wings. This is going to be our top band. So for right now, we want to make sure that we have this in the right direction because it's directional. So if you just lay it in the right direction and then flip it over, you'll know it's correct. And I did try to fussy cut this. So I'm going to kind of just fold this in half so I can match it up with that tick line. And then just tape it down. And did I leave enough of a border up there from her hat? I think so. I'm going to pull it up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to run step 3 to tack this down. All right, then we're going to flip to the back. I'm going to remove the tape, and we're going to fold down this lining panel. Finger crease it as you go. So gently fold it, gently finger crease it, and then tape it to hold it out of the way. So just like that. Then on the front, we're going to fold down this guy, and I'm going to get my little clover roller thing here to help me press it down. Remove the tape first so you don't have that resistance there. Okay, and then we're going to use this little tool. Oh, wow. This is going to be very close. I should have cut this. Oh, it's going to be fine because my final bag is 6 inches. Oh, I thought I picked the wrong file for a second there. I already did do the calculation, so I have in Brilliant software. Highly recommend it. Even if you just get the Essentials, the BX fonts are great when you buy BX fonts from a vendor who sells them. But I just actually measured mine within that. But I will show you when we hoop the actual bag how you can make the adjustments that you need. But you have to do this panel first. So, okay, so now I'm going to top stitch that, the top and the bottom. It's going to help keep that pocket lining. So this is step 4. And I'm sorry this is going to drag on. You can fast forward if you need to. I'm just going to show you this next piece, and then I'm going to show you the next piece, and then I'm going to fast forward through the rest of it because there's already a full tutorial on how to do this. Okay, so, and the thread I'm using is Neon Orange from Geeky Hardware, Wizardry Stitchery. They have both names. I don't understand, but it is that. One of these days I need to remember and ask them in the group. I don't know, 2 groups joined or what. Okay, so now we want to put our little header file here. And we can leave our lining as is, or you can go ahead and pull it up now. Either way, it doesn't matter. So I don't forget, I'm going to pull mine up now. So what we're going to do, ooh, that tension is not good on the back of my machine. I'm going to have to spend some time trying to go through this and see what's going on. It's been doing this regularly, going through the vinyl. I should have increased to a 9014 needle. I have a 7511 in here, but going through the vinyl is kind of hard. So what you're going to do is you're just going to fold this up, and you can make this as deep as you want. It's your pocket. But remember, our final bag is only going to be 6 inches wide. So if we get our ruler out again, and you're going to go from the top here, right? That's going to be approximately your top, and you're going to go 6 inches takes us to right here. So it's best to avoid having that pocket go into your final lining here. So I did 6 by 8, but I definitely could have done 6 by 10 and taken it down a little bit farther like this and had a little bit deeper pocket. So you have options. This is the option I chose. This is a small bag. I just wanted an option where I can either put my key fob, or if you have a chapstick or whatever in there, your name badge for work, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and line this top up with the top of the zipper. Make sure it's even all the way around. So when you fold over the edge, it should be even. And then I'm going to tape it down at the top like we're used to, but I'm also going to tape these little pieces down here because I don't want that to get wonky when I go to add the wings on. So I'm going to tape those there too. And this tape is 3M transport tape. I learned about this from the Queen, Reen Wilkerson Embroidery Garden. She just celebrated her 100,000 member in the Embroidery Garden group, which is pretty phenomenal for embroidery. So stop over there and congratulate her if you have a chance. But she's like, as long as I've been doing embroidery, not quite as long. I've been doing this for on and off for, maybe 20 years. And originally when I first started, I wasn't digitizing. I was just buying patterns. So I really wasn't buying embroidery garden stuff. I was doing all the like OESD stuff. But once I started digitizing, getting more into embroidery, which was like 2016, 2017, then I learned about her and I was like, oh, she's the queen. She's been doing it a long time. Okay, so same thing here. If you need to, if it's directional, you want to lay it like this and then flip it down. And if you need to divide it in half and mark that space so you know where the center is. I'm going to flip it around so I can make sure I'm covering my zipper tape since I can't see upside down. Okay, and we're going to tape this down. We can actually remove this tape down here by the zipper. I forgot to do that. The end of the zipper. We'll just use that to tape our panel down. Okay, so we got the bottom lining. That's closing our lining now. And then we have this. So we're going to run step 5. And then we're going to flip it open, run step 6, which is the top stitching. And then we're going to run step 7, which is the placement for the, let me just run these two first, and then I'll show you what to do with the placement. So I'll be right back. Okay, I had to put my tripod up so high, I actually can't see if we're back on or not when I come back. So I have to scooch around. Let me move that over. All right, so I went ahead and done the top stitching. So what I want to point out to you before we do the wings, when the presser foot's coming back down this way, because we're using vinyl, it's so thick right here, the presser foot could get stuck on that. Same thing over here. So we don't need to move the zipper, but we'll do it now just because I can show you at one time. And I'll show you one wing, and then I'm going to skip through to the end. So after we stitch on this wing, we're going to do this wing, and then we'll do a placement all the way around. That'll give us a centering mark to put it in our final bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put where my top stitching ends, I'm going to put a piece of tape to the right of that on this side. And that'll help the presser foot not get stuck there as it stitches the placement for the wing. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go ahead and move my zipper pull over out of the way. We're not turning through this zipper pocket, so we can just leave it right in the middle. You don't need a lot of space. I don't know what I got there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing where my top stitching ends. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tape so my presser foot doesn't get stuck on the zipper tape or on there. So let's go ahead and run step 7. That's going to give us our placement for our wings. And again, I made my wings wider so that this is wide enough for the bag I'm putting it in. You can't make it taller. You have to find a file that is the height you need, but you can make it wider just by adding more. And I'm going to skip the step to do all the way around the last step because it'll stitch through here on the vinyl and I don't want it to do that. So here we're going to go ahead and lay our wing centered over here. And I apparently didn't cut my wings tall enough. So hopefully this will be okay. I don't know what I mismeasured. So this is the top. I want it to be at the top. Let me make sure it's going to be enough before I might have to cut 2 new pieces. Oh, that's 7 inches. That's right, 7 inches because the final bag, I just cut this too long. Okay, so I can reuse this tape here. So just double check yourself as you go along since you're not working with an actual real pattern, you're having to figure this out to work with the materials you're using. So if you need to double check yourself. But yeah, this is right. So I want to start it at the top because this is a piece I'm going to lay down on my actual bag. Okay, so now we're going to run the tack down stitch, which is step 8. And it's okay if it goes beyond that because this is going to get cut off. And if you're using really heavy vinyl, you might want to repeat these steps because this bag or this was designed with as a cotton in mind, so the tack down isn't a bean stitch. But I haven't had any issues yet. It did seem to come up a little bit right there, but that should get covered up. So just gently fold this back and then tape it in to hold it down. And again, you can get your little brayer or whatever this thing is called and roll it down. The Stardust vinyl doesn't generally creep up as much. So usually once I just do it with my finger, it's okay. Okay. So now I'm going to run step 9, which is the top stitch. I was just wanting to run the placement over here. I'll just let it run that. Okay. No, I did that. Oh, it must be so I can carry it across and not get stuck on anything. Okay, so we got our tape there, so that's helping that not to come together there or not come apart. Okay, I'm not going to do the rest of it live. So you have the tack down and the top stitch on this side, and your machine will show 2 more steps, 3 more steps. But you're going to skip. Well, we're already here. Let's just finish it, guys. I'm being crazy today. We're already here. We might as well just finish it. All right. So I'm going to try and salvage as much of this tape as I can and reuse it. So just like we did before, we want to line this up at the top of our panel there, the top stitching or the placement right here. And then this side is right on the placement. That way this is even. And I'm going to put a piece right here too. Just make sure that doesn't move on us. Okay, so now we're going to run step 11. All right. So the next step is going to be our last one. Now remember, I put some center tick marks on this for you, so you'll be able to see those in the bottom of the stabilizer. So let me show you that. Let's go ahead and fold this one open and finger press or use your little roller thing. Tape it. Or did I just do off all my pieces of tape? There it is. Tape it down. Did I pull that tape up here? I did. Okay. Tape it down so that it stays nice and snug, because you can't really tape it to the side. So if you don't get this even, then it might look wavy as you're moving along. Let's see if I can tape this right here. Okay, so now we're going to run step 12, which is our top stitch for the left wing. And then we're going to skip the rest of the stitches. See, I think it starts at the top, so it will benefit us to do the top. So let's do the beginning of 13, and we'll just stop when we get to the sides. Because 13 gives us the line that we use to place it. So we're going to start 13, but we're going to stop when it gets here. Alternatively, you can use a ruler and a marking pen to mark it. See, I didn't want that. So pay attention to that, but hopefully it shouldn't have gotten too far into my vinyl. So I think that maybe just don't do this step so you don't worry about it getting in your vinyl, different vinyl. This should actually be in the seam allowance, but it's hard to say right now. Okay, so anyway, we have all that done. So this is what you're done. You don't have to finish 13 or 14. So instead of having this line up here, you'll just line it up here, use the marking pen, and use that to line up on your bag. And I'll show you that when we get to that step. Okay, so I'm going to remove all the tape, and then I'm going to show you how to trim out some of the bulk behind this bag, because we don't need all the wing bulk here. So we can go ahead and unhoop it now. And remember, I used tearaway, so we can go ahead and remove all the tearaway. Oops, I missed a piece of tape in there. Did I? And what I want to do before I move the final piece from the middle section here is I want to go in and remark the centering area. Now sometimes you have to get your scissors out and cut from that original placement line. It'll get tangled in between your stitches, and then you won't be able to pull. It could potentially pull out your stitches, see, just like that. So whenever that happens, just go ahead and cut it. Just here so I don't miss it. And then you can reach in here and pull up this. Oh, there's a piece of tape there I missed. Oh, I forgot to remove. That's why I forgot the tape on the lining on the back. You won't do that. I should have taken that off after I got the wings stitched. Okay, anyway, so let's go ahead and reach in here and pull this tearaway out from inside the pocket, so we don't want that crunchiness in our final bag. And I can feel I got caught on one of the placement lines. You see that thread is pulling, so I'm just going to snip that. All right, Now, before we cut this here, we want to get one of our marking pens. I'm just going to use an ink pen and draw in the centering mark. So that'll help us. And you can actually even kind of use a ruler. I'm just going to wing it and draw in your line here to center this in your main bag. And then you can go ahead and tear away out here. All right, now get your good scissors out and fold your wing back like this and go ahead and trim this piece to 1/4 inch seam allowance. And it might be easier to do it from this side so you can see it, and just trim it to 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is going to be just shy of the original placement line. And you actually could have done this while it was still in the hoop. I think my original instructions tell you to do that. Okay, same thing over here. I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to get the lighter and burn the edges of my zipper. Oh, how did I miss the pocket there? Okay. And use your lighter to burn off the zipper. It's okay if it hits your cotton too. You're doing it really fast. Just to burn those edges of the zipper. Okay, now we're not going to trim off the rest of this yet. So now our panel is all ready to put into our burnie. We're going to do the burnie. So you see there's your little pocket. So you got plenty of room in there. So that's the end of this first step. I'm going to go get rehooped and get ready to start stitching burnie. And I'll be right back with you. Okay, and we're back. I have the burnie bag stitched out, the 8.5 by 6 on my poly mesh stabilizer. Have my zipper ready. I'm going to trim off my tails here. So remember, the burnie bag is an applique bag. So you can see that when I show you the stitch out here, the placement. So what we have to do is skip the applique steps. We don't want to do those. But this bag is the shape that we wanted, with the little gentle curve here. So all we're going to do is when we get to those steps for the applique steps, we're going to skip them. We're still going to have the same stitches to do the top stitch and all that here to lay our panel. So let me get my zipper placed again. There's better tutorials on how to do the zipper. I'm using the same zipper as I did on the pocket panel. So I'm just going to center it, overlap it about 1/2 inch on the exterior side here, the right side, as you're looking at it. And I'm going to center it in between those two lines and tape as I go along. If you're using a number 5 zipper, you're going to center that over the middle placement line. You would just take the negative space that's created from your opening and line that up right along that center zipper mark, or the center placement line. I have a whole video if I can figure out how to do that card thing where you put one up. I can't even figure out how to put my fingers in the right place. I'm not that coordinated. Aging myself here, but I used to try and do aerobics with my friends, my roommates in college. Forget about it. My brain could not do that, which is kind of funny because I have a visual memory. But anyway, I couldn't convert what I was seeing into my legs and arm movement. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to try and rush through this because it's not important that we do these steps. There's a whole video all on burnie already. And I am going to tape the pole out of the way here because we don't have as much room to work with on this side. So it stays out of our way. So let's run through and do step 2 right quick, which is going to be our tack down for our zipper. I did move up to a 90-14 needle in between here because I've got that kind of yucky tension on the back of the pocket panel. So I'm hoping that will work because this is kind of, it's not dense vinyl, but let me see if I can show you on this one. But this flannel back vinyl, sometimes it's fibrous, and sometimes that equates to the needle kind of dragging as it's going through it. Now, another alternative you could do is if you're only having that issue with the top stitching, say, for example, on this pattern, or I'm sorry, on this vinyl, you can eliminate it that it is the vinyl that's causing that drag, right? You know, it's not your fabric. Doing it on your fabric designs. You can put a little bit of sewer's aid on your thread spool, just a little ribbon, and it's a silicone thing, and it'll help coat that thread, so as it goes through the vinyl, it won't stick as much. So that's a little tip. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the stabilizer. I don't have anything going on the top here, so I feel comfortable that I can go ahead and cut out this stabilizer and not worry about my zipper panel falling apart here. And it's so much easier with the seam ripper, but I grabbed these instead. So I just want to cut just above my tack down because I don't want to pull my tack down stitches away, and that's going to get covered up with the next stitches. And it's easier to see on the other side once you release the one side. So just go slow because it would be very easy to cut into your seam if you go fast. Or you can wait and do this at the end if you are good at removing poly mesh. I am. I can do it without cutting the material after all these years, but not everybody is. So we're all, I'm on the Janome, so I have to have my zipper on this side because the arm is on here. Get this, a very new Janome, although it's not an embroidery only machine. It has the arm over here. So I rotate all my designs when I save them for Janome people, so the zipper's over here. The brand new machine, the arm is over here, so you need the zipper reversed. But I'm not going through and changing all my patterns. Anybody who can afford a $24,000 machine can afford software to go in and flip it themselves. $24,000. That's a new car. Okay, back to where we're going. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put our lining on first. That's going to be the easier part. So I'm going to flip this over. My zipper's on the left-hand side. And likewise, I want my pretty purple to be showing from this pattern. And I do have some selvage on there. I'm totally not going to worry about that. So I'm just going to lay it down. If you need to center it, you can. And actually, this particular pattern doesn't have a center tick mark. So we don't need it for the lining, but we will need it in the front. So I'll go ahead and mark that when we flip over. We'll figure out how to mark that center so we know. Some of my patterns, it depends on what it is for. I put a centering tick mark. It depends how important that centering is. But this one, I don't because it's not as important. Okay, so before we continue, I'm going to go ahead and get my pen, and I'm going to take my ruler here. And this is, oh wow, how about that? It's almost exactly 8 inches. It's 1/8 inch shorter on either side. So I have it laid or centered so that the 1/8 inch mark is there. So if I mark 4 inches right here, that's going to be that halfway point. And you can always go like this and make sure using your hoop. Okay, so what I did was I went ahead and trimmed the top of my panel even with the wings. And I have some thread there, that's okay. And remember I'm, oops, I lost my little drawing line. Let me redraw that in there. I should have made it go that way. So that mid mark. And I have that little thread anyway. Okay, so I got my lining lined on the back. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark this midpoint up with this midpoint that I drew here. And then we're going to make sure that the edge here is lined up with the bottom of the zipper tape. And it doesn't matter which size zipper tape you're using, whether you're using the number 3 or number 5, just line it up with the bottom of the zipper tape. And you're going to get the correct seam allowance. So I'm going to center it here, make sure the center is done, and then I'm going to come over to the edges, tape those down. And then I'm just going to put a couple pieces here in the center where those wings are connected, because that area gets a little bulky. And I don't want it to jump loose when I'm going over it with the stitch. Okay, so we have our back lined up with the bottom of the zipper, our lining. Our top is lined up with the bottom of the zipper. And we're going to go run step 3, which is our tack down. Now, if your machine struggles getting over these little bumps here, then you can always add some more tape there or tearaway stabilizer, float it over the top. So I'm just going to keep an eye here, make sure it didn't have trouble going over that. And I did put in a 90-14 needle. Okay, so we're going to flip to the back, remove our tape, and carefully fold our lining panel down and finger press it. So again, I'm going through this fast because there's already a full video for Bernie out there that you can go watch for the full details. So I'm just going through this real quick to show you how to do it with the addition of that zipper pocket as the front exterior panel. Now I cut mine a little bit long, so it's going to interfere with my hoop attachment. So here's the bottom of my placement line, so I'm going to cut off. I generally do cut a little bit longer. Might give you instructions that are at least an inch wider or longer. Sometimes folks still have issues with extra seam allowance, not having enough. I don't know if the cutting is incorrect or just the placement. So if you are new, by all means, feel free to add another ½ inch or an inch to your width and height if you're afraid you're not going to have enough room. Okay, now we're going to come over here to the front, remove all this tape. It's very helpful to remove the tape as you go along. And this tape, this back of this Stardust is a little bit, I don't want to say, what's the word for it, linty. So I don't usually, I'm not usually able to reuse the pieces of tape from the back of it as much because it gets filled with lint. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Okay, so get your little doodad here handy. So now what we're going to do is we want to make sure, and we do it, it looks perfect. But remember where our pocket was, you want to make sure it didn't come down there too far. Okay, so now we're going to, and this is going to be a little bit harder to stitch through because you have a huge bulk right here with the wing. And what we can do actually is cut some of this wing seam allowance out. Use some small scissors, because normally you would press these seams open, but the way you do it in the hoop bag, you don't really have an opportunity to press seams open. So I'm just going to notch there, and I'm going to notch right here, and try and get a little bit of the bulk out of there. Don't cut into your stitches. So again, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to cut into this piece and trim out this a little bit here because we're working with vinyl, so it should be fine. You can get trimmed really close. And then this right here corner, we're going to trim at an angle as well. And that's just going to help reduce that bulk a little bit. But I'm not going to lie, I'm going to switch to a 100 needle because when I tried to do this on my other bag, I got a jump stitch there. So I am going to switch to the 100 needle. If you're on a multi-needle machine, you probably don't need to worry about this at all. So I'm going to go ahead and press this down, pull it down, and then I'm going to use my little roller. Oops. Remember, don't push too hard because that zipper is actually loose up there. push as much as you can. And then I'm going to do a 100 needle, and hopefully that'll get over those little humps for us. If you're worried about getting over those little humps, you can totally not top stitch this, but you need 2 stitches in here. So if you decide not to top stitch this, then just go ahead and leave this open and run 1 more stitch through here so you don't have to worry about it. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do, because this is so bulky right here. I don't want to risk breaking a needle or even getting jump stitches there. So I'm just going to not top stitch through this, and I'll show you. So we're going to go ahead and place this. I'm going to tape this down because I'm afraid it's going to come loose. We're going to leave the lining though folded down, because we want to make sure that that doesn't come loose. And I'm just going to run the top stitch through the exterior as it lays down, and that just reinforces that seam, and we're not going to top stitch through it. Oops. But again, if you are on a multi-needle, or you know for sure your machine has no trouble getting over bumps like that, then go ahead and top stitch. And what I'm going to do then, since I'm not going to be top stitching it, I'm going to actually apply some double stick tape to the back to help hold it down once it's folded over. I'll show you that in a minute. So your choices are to increase your needle size, skip the top stitching, or if you're on a multi-needle, you probably have no issues. The other thing is, the reason why I have issues is because the presser foot doesn't move. I can't adjust the height of it. So if you have a presser foot that you can adjust the height, then you can do that to solve the problem. Because if you were doing this on a regular sewing machine, when you get to a stitch like here where it's real thick, you would use a jump humper to help that. So what I'm going to do, I already finger pressed it, so that's good. I use my ruler. So what I want to do then is I want to put some tape back here to help hold the top down. Where's my double stick tape? So I'm going to use this 1/4 inch one. I think this is a 1/4 inch. Yes, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch tape. And this is, I get this on Amazon, but I actually did just order some from a couple of vendors to try, but this has worked for me great. Scor-tape. And I'm just going to put a piece along the bottom stitches there, and that'll just help keep that laying down flat. I'm kind of excited to try Lux Hardware. You guys know Ginger. She's got some in the red tape, and it's supposed to be really strong. I've seen them use that in other, like especially Korean bag makers and stuff like that, Asian bag makers. But it's sticky, so you don't want to put it somewhere where your needle is going to go through. So what I'm doing is I'm overlapping my tape so that it's just underneath that stitch there, and it's going to lay on top of that little vinyl and then part of the stabilizer, and then I'll help hold this down. So just make sure it's pressed really good, and then pull up this to tape, release tape, release tape, release paper. Kimberly, can you speak today? I don't think I can. I have no idea why I'm doing this. I started the day off with a migraine, but it seemed to be better after I ate. So I said, let me do this, because it's been on my list to do for a while, and I'm in a creative block right now. Okay, so now I had already started a finger press it. So I'm going to start in the center, and I'm going to softly work out to each side and press into that tape. And now you can see it's nice and even, so I don't need to worry about the final construction. Okay, so that's done. The back is done. Oh, and look, raising the needle size did help the tension issue on my back. Okay, so now we're going to get to the point where it wants to do our 3-step applique. So step 5, 6, and 7 are for the applique. We're going to skip those. We don't want to do applique, although It actually would be pretty cool if you did applique here. But I'm not doing that today. You can decide to do that for yourself. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that actually would be cool if we came in with a piece of orange. It would come down here. Okay. Just, no. Kimberly, no. We're stopping here. Okay, so I'm going to skip 5, 6, and 7. But you can see that actually would look really cool. Okay, now we're up to step 8, which is going to be our placement for our D-ring strap connectors. And again, there's a full video. I'm only going to run the very first one for the left-hand side because that's all I'm going to use. So I'm going to stop the machine after it runs the placement for that. All right, so I'm only going to use that, so I didn't want to waste all that thread. All right, and I'm going to use a little piece of webbing. Oh, good thing we're almost done because I can tell my blood pressure is falling. I literally, guys, I just had that webbing. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Oh, this piece is all curled up. Okay, that's fine. This is really thick webbing. It's not as thin as the other kind I have. I don't have any purple. All right, we're just going to try it when we get... This one is really thick. It's like meant for... I don't know if that's going to work. I think that's going to be way too thick. So how about if we just use this for our strap? So what I like to do here is get my ruler again. So I like to cut it. I'm going to use 1/2 inch D-ring hardware. So I like to cut this twice as wide as that, 3 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line that's 3 inches long by 1 inch wide. Because our thing, you need it to, actually this worked out perfect. This is actually 1 inch wide. How about that? Didn't even do that on purpose. And then what I like to do is fold, put a piece of the tape down the center. Just like the tape that we had before. And I like to offset it so it's not in the seam allowance. I'm in trouble over here today. So I detailed this in the PDF, but since I was going to use that black and it's not going to work, I'm showing you how to do it anyway. So just center it down the center. Make sure it's tightly on there and pull the release paper up. And then I just fold in the long edges. You don't even need to draw it in. Just make sure it's hitting halfway through the tape and the ends are the same. And I just fold it in on both sides. And then that tape will hold it together. Alternatively, you can use stabilizer. When I'm doing cotton versions, I do the fusible stabilizer, so the fusible side is facing up. Okay, so now our raw edges are concealed. We'll put it in here. This is actually may end up being too thick anyway, too. But anyway, we're going to try. Okay, so one of the tricks that you can also do if you're worried that your strap connector is too wide is offset it when you place it down. So what I mean by that is normally we go like this, right? We lay it right on top of each other. But if you offset it like this and put it here, it distributes the width of that out across the seam so you don't have as much thickness to get through. And then when you see it, it'll look crisscrossed, but that's okay. So then you just tape it down. We're going to do that just so you can see it. And you'll tape it down. And when you go to stitch through it, it won't be as thick. Now, I would probably actually top stitch these on a regular sewing machine if I do this version in the front, in the pat, or again, normally with when I'm doing vinyl, I just go ahead and cut it the width of the hardware and then glue some medium stabilizer down the center behind it. Okay, so I need to actually move forward to this stitch. Oh, let me show you what I meant about that. So see how I have it offset now? You just want to make sure that your zipper or your D-ring strap connector is far enough away for your presser feet to clear it. And I'm going to skip forward to that step, or that stitch that's going to start. And it's fairly easy to do on my machine. If not, you can just go ahead and stitch it out. Okay. And I'm going to be very mindful of this D-ring strap connector because my machine likes to pull the tails really crazy and it will stick to there. So listen to the blade cut, then lift it up, and you can lift it up extra. Okay, we're getting there now. So, it's got in my way of my scissors. Always trim these threads and remove the tape as you go along whenever you can. All right, so I'm going to speed through this next section because this is not relevant. The burning pattern shows all this. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply our lining on the back and our top panel, our backing panel. We're going to tack it down and we're going to flip it over and we're going to run the 2 stitches because I don't do a top stitch on the exteriors on these either. So it's actually going to have the same kind of look. And then we'll do the final seam. So I'm going to do those steps right now and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, so we're finishing up step 11 and you'll see what I did. And again, you can see a full video if you want more details. So what I did was I ran step 10. I pulled the lining out on the back so I could top stitch through that and it would make it lay better. But I didn't fold up the exterior panel because I didn't want to top stitch through that. And now we're ready to move the zipper pull and do the sides of the panel. So we still have our lining out of the way in the back. And just like before, we're going to go ahead and finger press this and use our little roller to hold it down. And you can do the same trick with the tape after, but before you turn the bag right side out if you want. But I usually don't have to worry about it. Usually it stays back. Okay. Now let's move this to the center because we don't want it to get caught in our stitches. And then we're going to pull this back down. The lining is out of the way and we're going to stitch the exterior. I used to do this a little bit different where I would just stitch the exterior together at the bottom and then pull the lining down, add the lining, and stitch all the way around. The reason I stopped doing that is because with vinyl, most of my bags I'm designing for vinyl. Vinyl tends to, especially on these machines, the tension is not as great, so it tends to show your stitches in the seams. So a trick for getting around that is if you run another set of stitches just inside the seam allowance, and that'll help strengthen that seam and you won't see the stitches as much. So that's why I changed how I do it. So we're going to run step 12, and this is going to stitch down to the bottom. It's going to stop and run some travel stitches over there and then come back up to the top. And you can kind of see why I do that. Do you see how this is already starting to kind of try and pucker up? Because this vinyl has stretch in it. And I think I have it laying down the way that has least stretch. But look, if we went stitched all the way around here, it would end up getting a little pucker up there. So this is how I get around that. I always start up here. If there's going to be a pucker, I'd rather it be in the bottom where it can be kind of hidden a little bit with the seam allowance into the turning. But you can't really hide it if it's up here. And you see how that's doing that? And you could tape it down better. Oh, this is going off kilter over there. See how it's doing that? So this is why I do it like this. So I need to tape that down better. It was going right off kilter there. So get the seam ripper out and pull the stitches out. I'm kind of glad that happened because it helps you to see it. So what I need to do is I need to pull this vinyl over more and tape it, if you have like a clamp or something, to the hoop. Because apparently I didn't line it down very well. Obviously, look how much is over here. That's my fault for not centering it properly when I laid it down. And hopefully these holes shouldn't really show very much when we turn the bag, because they'll get caught in the seam allowance. So I could have just fudged it and stopped the video and redid all this section. But some people don't like when you leave mistakes in the video. I prefer to leave them in when it's something like this, because if it happened to me, it's going to happen to you. And I'd rather it happen so that you can see how I recover from it. Sometimes this will happen because you bump the hoop and things get out of whack. In this case, I just didn't position it very well, and the stretch of the vinyl was pulling it over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this vinyl and make the stretch come over here more and tape it with my big piece of tape. And I'm going to back up the machine and redo those stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it because there's some stretch in it. And I'm going to tape it so it's part on there and part on the hoop. I'm using the 1-inch tape now. And I should have taped this better the first time, and that would have been part of the benefit if I had taped it better the first time. So this is still pulling up here. I don't want that, so I'm going to go ahead and put another piece there. And one more piece down here at the bottom. Okay, so now let's back up those stitches a little bit. I read somewhere that you're not supposed to use your finger on these touch screens because it can make the screen go out more. I'm supposed to use that little stylus that comes with it that I never use. I'm not sure if that's true, so don't quote me on it, but it kind of makes sense that it might be true. Okay, so let's start this again, and hopefully this time we'll catch the whole vinyl. Again, I never get my fingers close to there. See, I have this in here. If anything happens, the needle's going to go through this and not my finger. There we go. And now it's all smooth. And it's going to run a few travel stitches over here to bring the presser foot back over here to start up. Okay, so I have one more step left, 13, which is the deep violet, and, or sorry, it doesn't matter what the color is. On here it says deep violet. But 13 is the last step, is what I meant to say. And we're not going to run any more steps after that. There is another step listed, but that step is there because if we don't stop the machine at the last step, it's going to try and go to the center to stop it. Most machines are designed to go back to the center when they're done with their stitching. If it goes back to the center, you risk it getting stuck on the D-ring strap connectors and the zipper pull. So we don't want that. So that step, I program it in there. I digitize it in there just so that you know when to stop. So this 13 is the last step for this bag. And you'll see that in just about all of my bags. Any bag that has a zipper pull, at least. Okay, so I'm going to turn around to the back here and fold the lining down. And normally, if you hadn't already pulled out your stabilizer behind your zipper, you would do that now. But since we trimmed ours away earlier in this step, we don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this down. I like to pull it tautly in the center and tape it there too. It just helps it to lay better in the bag when it's all done. All right, and the same thing's going to happen. It's going to stitch down halfway. It's going to stop to leave an opening for the turning. It's going to run a travel stitch here, come up here, and stitch down and leave the opening. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have gone ahead and finished the bag. I've trimmed it all out. So I trim off the corners a little bit there, trim the seam allowance to 1/4 inch all the way around. This is the most important part when you're doing a curved bag. You need to notch little triangles into that edge. You can use pinking shears if you want, but I actually find the triangles work best. It allows this vinyl to flay out in the seam allowance instead of folding up on itself. Then I leave the lining a little bit longer, so it's just easier to grab a hold of and turn it. So what I like to do then is I like to fold the lining down so it's even with that seam allowance from the main exterior, and I like to finger press this. This I find makes it so much easier when you go to turn the bag if that's done. So go ahead and now start with one of the corners, and we're going to turn the bag to the lining side. I got my glue sitting here, hopefully coming to the other end of it. I have to store it upright, else it'll leak, but then it takes a long time to get down to the bottom of the bottle if it's not a full bottle. So I use Beacon Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1. This one's 3-in-1. I prefer Fabri-Tac because it sets up faster on the immediate. The 3-in-1 takes a little bit longer. Fabri-Tac sets up and it's ready to turn within a few seconds. And then it finally cures within about 24 hours. So go ahead and push out as much of the corners as you can. One thing to note, because the way I do that double seam, it's not unusual that you might see some of that exterior seam here because the lining is pulling it out more. Now, on a regular sewing machine bag, that won't happen to you because you're sewing your linings together and your exteriors together. But in this case, everything's being sewn together at the same time. So that's why that'll happen. Okay. So now I got that all the way out, and the corners actually, see how they almost without issue, they turned with no problem. And sometimes I have trouble with these zipper pulls. So you want to reach in and push the zipper, finish opening it all the way. But these, she doesn't sell them anymore. I got them a long time ago from Cam Stamps, and I don't know if the poles are locking poles or what, but oh, they're really hard to turn from the other side, from the back side. So let me try and flip it to this side for a minute. See if that'll make it easier to unzip it. And it's not. I should have used a, there we go. I think they lock. I think that's considered a locking pole, and you have to have it right position to get it to unlock. Okay, so now what I like to do is I like to fold the, oh, we need some of these little clips, these little clover clips. In my case, I have the knockoffs. And then I like to fold the exterior inside so that that seam is showing. And that I find allows me an edge to fold up the lining against. Oh, why am I not trying to open this? I'm trying to take the wrong lid off, Kimberly. Okay. So again, I'm using the 3-in-1 from Beacon, but I prefer the Fabri-Tac. So down below, I'll have the link for the Fabri-Tac. So what I like to do is then start, this is a longer one, so I start in the middle, and I just put a little stream of glue there. This glue is kind of gobbly. I don't know if it's going to work. Oh, let me see if I can get some of this off. It got all, I need rubbing alcohol. If you have rubbing alcohol, that'll help. Okay. So let me fold this down again. You got to kind of hold it while you're doing it, else it'll flip up. Okay, there we go. Now, I'd start on one little section, and then I pull the lining, make sure it's in the middle, and then kind of like release it over on this side so you can make sure you're centered, and then put a clip right there. And then work your way over to the other side. So now I'm holding that in place. I don't need my fingers there as much anymore. So now I'm going to work the other side of the opening, put my glue there. You can also use permanent tape, or the kind of tape that you iron to be permanent. I just like the glue. It stays soft in the final seam. All right, and then just put some more clips to hold that together. Like that, and then go to the end. See how that ball formed at the top? So you have to be really careful. If this gets on your wood, it will damage it. I learned that the hard way. My beautiful table that's 20 years old, and I love it. It's mostly solid wood on one end, but it's got a little bit of veneer on the ends, and of course, wouldn't you know, the damage is on the veneer end, so I can't sand it to fix it. All right, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and put a few more clips in here. And usually by the time you get the lid back on the glue, it's set up and you can take the tape off. I'm going to use this leftover stabilizer and take that little ball off and get the red lid back on it really fast. And I have stuff all over me. Okay. So I'm going to let this just have one more second because this one takes longer. And this was the first one we did, so we can pull that out. And you see it's already set up. Yep. So I can gently pick at it and it's not coming apart. All right, now we just need to turn it to the exterior side out. Normally I wouldn't have done this on camera. I would have ended the video since there's a full tutorial for this, but I wanted you to see how the D-ring thing worked out. My little D-ring hack. So that's why I kept doing it. So then I'm just going to keep working the corners out. Use my fingers to start. Run along that bottom edge there and the side edges. And then I'm going to come back in with the 4-in-1 tool, and I use this piece here, and I just push out the corners and rub that tool along the seam allowance, and it kind of helps guide it apart, and it's what helps you get a nice curve on the bottom. Same thing over here. And then I like to rub it along the bottom edge and the side seams. And you can see on the corner, you can see a little bit of thread, but not a whole lot. That's the benefit of doing that double seam. Okay, over here, what I like to do is put this in, put my thumb up here on top of the zipper pull, and then just kind of pop it and push it at the same time, and it'll free that corner. Oops! There's another reason I didn't like these zippers. Just push the hole. Don't do that. Just cut the hole through my pointer through the zipper. Let me see if I can fix that. It's probably too far over to fix it. Oh man. Be very careful. I remember now that happened with these zippers. Okay. And you see how this is kind of folding up in the back? We could have put that tape on there like we did the other side, and that would have helped that. But it'll lay better once we get this side. So this side I like to push down on that bulk. You push down and back, and it'll push it into the seam allowance. Push down on it against to the back, and it'll push it into that seam allowance. Takes a couple times, and be gentle because you don't want to cut your zipper tape open. But that'll help lean that. And now, go ahead and reach in here and pull your lining down. And now go ahead and close your zipper. And you should be able to get all the way over there. If you can't close it all the way, then work that little corner a little bit more. But, so let me take this tape off. Now you see how that worked with doing the D-ring like that. It's there, it's solid, but it wasn't doubled over, so my machine didn't have any trouble stitching over. And there we go. Isn't she adorable? Oh my gosh, so cute. This is how you can turn any bag into a double zipper pouch. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll put the links for both of these patterns down below. And thank you for pulling me in and not making me do that extra applique, because you can see how cute that would have been. All right, guys, have a good one.